Titch trails their tattered fingers across the spines of dust-caked and crumbling books. Shelves line the dark passageway that splits in two directions ahead. They look left and right, button eyes gleaming in the light of the lamp. They look down at Drift the nightcat, sitting patiently at their side, his eyes glowing faintly in the gloom.
What do you reckon? Which way beckons?
They wince at the rhyme. Drift chirps non-committally.
I guess we could ask someone,
Titch says, into the quiet dark of the long abandoned library, before pushing back their silvery cloak to reveal an ingredient belt. Hanging in prime position by their right hip is the jam jar, glowing faintly. With a click, Titch twists the catch that releases a little spoon and takes a mouthful of the pale wicket reed preserve. So, we're using a spell here, Pure Wicket Reed, which says, produce a small basket of gifts or attract a helpful spirit. And very much inspired by Wanchitong's library, I want to speak to a spirit of this place. The spell says that the spirit is helpful, but I kind of want to make that its own challenge. For now though, I'll mark a use of the jam and we'll see what kind of help we get. Titch takes a deep breath as the warmth of magic spreads through them, feeling for the threads that bind this old place.
Anyone there?
Titch asks, words echoing musically through the corridors. A whooshing sound replies, and a face appears around a corner, a face like a tiny owl's.
Yes, can I help you?
The spirit says. Drift growls softly as Titch rests a reassuring hand on him.
Hello, we're looking for a book.
Well, you're in luck. Squid-like tentacles appear around the owl's face as it glides through the air closer to the couple.
There's one right there.
One of the tentacles points vaguely towards the bookshelves.
Oh, we're looking for Viasen's On Shadows and Stars. I'm told there might be a copy here.
Alright, here's the first roll of the campaign, to see how helpful our helpful spirit is. We'll be rolling heart plus the impact die from our spell, so that's 2d6s in total. We just need to decide on the difficulty. Going by the book, when playing solo, you can draw a card to set the difficulty of the challenge. 9 of clubs, that's a pretty tough difficulty rating of 12. Now, I also set a risk rating of 1 for the library. So what that means is we need to draw another card, and if it's black, then it increases the difficulty rating by another 1. Which means if I draw a club or a spade, then we can't possibly succeed. Oh dear. It's the 6 of clubs. Alright, well, let's roll anyway. That's a 1 and another 1. It can't get any worse than that to start the adventure. That is most definitely what the game calls a setback. We do get to draw a card for our hand to power abilities later, though. And I think what we'll do is have the spirit be a little bit helpful, like the spell says, but not very helpful. And we'll draw a complication along with it. 9 of diamonds is an ominous sign, a sudden darkening of the world that shakes resolve. Okay. Titch's lantern dims as a distant rumble shakes some dust loose from the shelves. The spirit frowns.
Don't you have libraries where you're from? Actually, yes. I study at Cloudlight, with the largest library in Nim.
Then you should know how to use an index. Titch nods.
You're right. Can you show us where we might find the index?
That way, near the entrance. Where else? The spirit's tentacle snakes out towards the left passage as it begins to fade.
Remember to sign out with the front desk before you leave.
Titch bows to the spirit, then shrugs at Drift before heading down the left-hand corridor. The entrance area, as it turns out, is not really an entrance. Not anymore. Not for a long time. Collapsed and buried probably since the sun had shone in the sky. The only way in being a balcony protruding from the mountain that had swallowed the library long ago. But after clambering around some rubble, Titch manages to find the front desk amongst the ruins of a grand atrium. Every so often that ominous rumble shakes dust loose from the ceiling. Now, I come to a bit of a question here about what civilization looked like before the sun was shattered and the Wildernite went all skewy. Would a library have had computers, or a book with a categorization system, or something else? I kind of want to keep it on the fantasy side of things. I'm not exploring a Fallout vault here. So we'll do what we do when we have a question. Ask the Oracle. And the question is the index a book? Queen of Clubs, that's a yes and. So not only is the answer yes, but there's an added benefit or unexpected positive twist. Okay, so what's the twist? I'll draw on the advantages table for that. King of Clubs, that's awakened relic. An artifact or old piece of equipment comes to life. Well then, I was actually thinking of using our Mend the Forgotten ability here, if necessary, but it looks like we won't need to. On the desk, a vast tome rests open on a stand.
Is that it?
Titch examines the pages.
It's blank.
They try to turn a page, but it doesn't budge. Instead, the paper lights up with a blue crisscross pattern and text that reads, "Welcome, visitor, to the Librarian Library. Please speak your query."
On Viasen Shadows and Stars?
There's a pause before the lines rearrange themselves into a crude map that reads, "Astronomy section, second floor gallery."
Oh, well, that was easier than I thought it'd be,
Titch says to Drift.
Let's go see what we can see.
Alright, so what next? In Midnight Muscadines, there's quite a neat mechanic called a mentor prompt, which works a little bit like an oracle, but instead of giving a vague answer to interpret, it tells you what kind of story beat to use next. We got fairly lucky with the index book, but there are definitely more challenges in this ancient library. So what are they? Let's draw and see what happens. Queen of Diamonds, yield to a viewpoint. Let someone else, an NPC, a player character, or even a creature, take the spotlight and shape how the world is seen just for a moment. Step into their thoughts, fears, or hopes. Explore emotional nuance, shift perspectives, or highlight how others experience the world differently. It can invite empathy, action, or tension, and deepen character relationships, especially in cozy, quiet, or reflective scenes. Alright, well, the only other characters we have at this point are the Owl Squid Spirit and Drift the Night Cat. So let's go with Drift. But since he's basically our pet and following us around, I'm going to draw again to see what he might be up to. 5 of Hearts says, hint at dangers. Okay, well, that fits in neatly with our ominous sign from earlier. So let's slip into Drift's head and see what's going on. Drift chirps, his voice echoing around the atrium, then hops up onto the desk as Titch studies the strange object with its lines and moving threads. He bats at one of the motes of light that seem to have so transfixed his companion. The ground rumbles again, and Drift paces anxiously up and down the stone platform. What is causing that? He hops back down and stalks carefully in the direction that his sensitive ears tell him the ominous sound is coming from, tail twitching with apprehension.
Hey, wait up, Titch says, and catches up to Drift. We'll go this way a little more, then up to the second floor. Ah.
They shake their head and point in the direction of the rumbling. Drift looks up at Titch, head cocked. Does Titch know they're leading them straight towards the source of that sound?
Coming?
They ask. Drift takes a steadying breath and trots after Titch, keeping close to their heel, eyes scanning side to side, ready to unleash darkness at the slightest hint of danger. Well, that was fun, but it hasn't taken us somewhere new, so I'm going to do it again. Let's draw another mentor prompt. 10 of clubs. Uncover a mystery. Introduce an unsolved puzzle or strange event that needs figuring out. I really like these prompts. Now, I could take it literally and encounter some kind of puzzle, but I've actually got an interesting idea here. And what I'm going to do is just slowly set up some mystery elements, as well as our inciting incident. We're going to have a brief flashback. I need you to fetch a library book, Novice Titch. Titch wrenched their attention away from the motes of dust dancing in a stray beam of light, where Cloudlight's spire of luminous knowledge had found a way through the heavy drapes into Madame Glass's office.
Oh, sure.
Titch found it difficult to keep the disappointment from their voice of being tasked with such a simple errand. Madame Glass's eyes sparkled, like her namesake though, her crow's feet deepening, lip twitching into a grin. Not the Cloudlight Library, Titch. Somewhere else entirely. Put your hand on the map. She trailed a thin finger across a row of tiny jars on the shelf behind her desk and selected one before turning back to the map of the Eastern Wildernite that Titch was so familiar with. In one practiced movement, Glass twisted the lid off the jar, dipped a finger into its contents, and lifted it to her lips. She drew a breath as the magic coursed through her, then lowered her finger to the map. The parchment shuddered, buzzing under Titch's hand as new lines and labels appeared there. Remove your hand. Titch did so, and the lines that had appeared immediately faded. And back again. Titch nodded, placing a hand on the corner of the map as the hidden sections reappeared. Good. It's locked to your touch now. Here, Glass drew Titch's attention to one of the newly appeared sections, is the Librarian Library. It's very easily missed, having somehow been buried beneath a mountain, but there is a way in if you know where to look. We have plans for the place. Glass paused. But for now, only select witches are given this knowledge if and when we have need for a book that once existed but can't be found in Cloudlight. I need you to find, if possible, a copy of Viasen's On Shadows and Stars and bring it back. It will not be easy. It is a place of spirits and shadows now, changing every time we send a witch. Is this something you can handle, Novice? Glass adjusted her spectacles and peered at the young tattling.
Handling is my speciality, Titch said.
Good. There was another long pause as Glass looked Titch up and down, the sparkle now gone from her eyes.
Is everything all right, Professor?
Quite all right. Off you go, then. This is a matter of some urgency. Oh, and Titch, if you happen to find out what happened to one of the previous novices we sent, Elmsroot, I know some people who would be grateful. All right, I think that was mysterious enough. I want to keep things a little vague and see where they go rather than planning out what the answers to any questions are. So that hopefully establishes a relationship and asks a few questions like, what does the Coven have planned for this old library? Why does Glass want this book and why is it so urgent? And what happened to Elmsroot? Now, back to the present, I'm still enjoying these prompts, so let's just do it again. 9 of spades. Question the familiar. Take something ordinary, like an object, place, or tradition, and make it strange, uncertain, or slightly off. Well, we're very much in a strange and uncertain place already, but I've got an idea here.
Huh.
Titch says as they reach the stairwell. They lower their lantern and peer upwards. Light ahead. Definitely shifting, moving light, coming from somewhere above.
Is there someone up there?
Titch says quietly to Drift as the building vibrates again.
We can't be the only ones who know about this place.
Titch wraps the silvery shawl around themselves like a cloak as it takes on a colour and texture similar to the wall behind them, then extinguishes the lantern and stashes it in their satchel.
Let's go quietly.
Time for another roll, I think. This time a D10 dexterity roll for sneaking, plus the D6 impact die from Titch's Veil Serpent Shawl. The difficulty is 8 of diamonds, that's an 8, plus the risk rating, 4 of hearts, so 8 in total. A 4 and a 10. Success. So we gain an XP and we do some good sneaking, but I still want to know if there's someone actually up here. So I'll ask the Oracle, is there someone who might have spotted us? A 6 of diamonds says no but. No but what? I'm not sure. I think I'll draw a complication and see if that inspires me. 10 of hearts. Split focus. Another situation demands attention. I'm still not sure, but I've got an interesting idea from the previous mentor prompt. We had light as a familiar thing that's strange in this context, so the source of light might be worthy of a split focus, especially if it's also a familiar but strange thing. Creeping slowly to the gallery at the top of the stairs, Titch peeks into the library's main hall and gasps. The room is a huge elliptical space, with multiple galleries circling it. How many levels, though, remains a mystery, as the view to the ceiling is obstructed by the canopy of a vast tree. Its roots break through the tiled floor below, scattering shelves and desks. The glittering surface of an impossible stream runs along what was once a path through the reading space below. The whole thing is illuminated by some light source beyond the leaves and branches above. Titch stands staring for a moment, forgetting their stealthy plans, until Drift nudges a shoulder into their knee.
That's weird, right?
Titch whispers to the nightcat and wrenches their gaze away from the strange underground tree, looking for the astronomy section.
I think it's down this way.
Some of the lower branches protrude across the gallery levels and into the bookcases there. Okay, so I want to know if any of these branches are obstructing our path, so I'll ask the Oracle. 4 of diamonds is a no but. But what? I've noticed that Oracle results tend to assume that no is a negative outcome, and no but says, while the answer is no, there's a silver lining or an alternative path forward. In this case, though, a no meant there's no hindrance, so a no but should mean that there's something else to contend with. Titch edges around the gallery, awkwardly clambering over branches as Drift hops easily from one to another. Suddenly, Drift hunches and growls softly.
What is it?
Titch whispers, pulling up next to him. Ahead, along one of the branches, a brigade of small spirits are carrying books from the shelves up towards the main trunk, like weaver ants bringing leaves back to their colony. The spirits seem to be teardrop-shaped blue blobs, bouncing along the bark with happy little faces. Oh, well, they don't look dangerous. Drift growls again as the room shakes. Let's just be polite. Come on. Titch vaults over a branch and approaches the strange brigade, arms out, button eyes gleaming in the ambient light. Hello, friends. Now, for this, I'm going to draw an NPC attitude card to see how these little guys react. Jack of Spades. That means hostile or angry. Okay, well, Drift did warn us. And while I'm not going to rush into combat with cute little spirits, I think it might be time to test out a challenge, which is just a simple track with sections called Resolve. So, what's our goal here? Let's keep it simple. We want to get past the book carriers. So, I'll say it's a Resolve of 2, and draw for the difficulty rating, which is a 10 of diamonds, 8. And for the risk rating, King of Spades, which ups the difficulty to 9. I really should have used our Read the Weave ability to reduce the risk rating, but I'll not retcon it. Alright, let's see what happens. As soon as the spirits spot Titch, they turn towards the approaching tattling, faces turning from closed-eyed smiles to fanged snarls. Their colour shifts from blue to fiery red. They start hopping and growling squeakily. Titch stops and slowly reaches down to the jam jar at their hip, careful to show the little spirits what they're doing. Titch takes a mouthful of wicket reed jam, feeling the familiar pulse of magic, and imagines a gift for these creatures. They seem to want books, but they have so many in this place. Threads of pale light materialise around Titch's hands, weaving together, forming into a simple reed basket. Inside it, little pots of ink and pens. Titch takes a single step forward, places the basket down, and steps back to where Drift is still crouching on a branch. So, I think that's probably a heart roll with a d6 impact from the Wicket Reed spell. So, 2 d6s. Aha! 2 6s for a 12. That's still only 1 success though. We'll need another. But I kind of want to draw an advantage for that. Let's see. 4 of clubs says, adversary mistake. An adversary leaves themselves vulnerable or reveals information. Well, I don't like that because these spirits aren't currently adversaries in a mechanical sense. I could draw again, but I think I'll bank that for now, in case they do become adversaries. But hopefully it won't come up. Oh, and we gain an XP. Tentatively, a couple of the little teardrop spirits hop down to investigate the basket, circling it carefully while the others watch. Eventually, they pick up the basket and bring it to the branch with the other spirits, who gather around to investigate it. One of them falls in, and the others bounce up and down, chittering with a kind of laughter as their colour reverts to blue. The original 2 teardrop creatures pick up the basket again and carry it up the branch along with the books. Some of the spirits remain, cautiously watching Titch and Drift. Titch signals for Drift to keep close. I think they probably just want to be left alone. They glance down at the nightcat, who's still tense, ready to spring. Titch notices a lot of the spirit's attention is on him. Drift, it's okay. Titch kneels to eye level with their companion, not saying anything, just inviting the nightcat under their broad-rimmed hat. Drift lowers his head and rubs against the fabric of Titch's face. Titch senses the fray there and reaches into the shared space that connects all things, feeling their way along the threads that link the two of them to the library. The building rumbles again, and some of those threads come undone, leaving a hole of anxiety and uncertainty. Back in the material world of song, Titch places a reassuring hand on Drift's forehead, then turns their attention to those threads, splicing them together. If you ask them how, Titch wouldn't have been able to give a satisfying answer. It was intuitive, done by feel rather than training. But somehow, they stitch together some of those threads, and when they pull away from Drift, the night cat stretches and grooms the back of his paw.
Pay them no mind, Drift. We've still got a book to find.
Titch looks for a route that doesn't interfere with the busy spirits and leads them under the branch where the gallery railing has been toppled by the tree's growth. It's a narrow path and an unsettling drop to the floor below. Titch hesitates, but buoyed by his newfound confidence, Drift chirps and bounds along the path before turning as if to say, "See? Like that." Titch nods and follows. Time for another roll along this challenge then. Now, that little scene sharing a comforting moment with Drift was originally an attempt at what the book calls a role-playing feat, just a little bit of creative role-playing that might give us a bonus to the next roll. I intended it just to give Drift the confidence to lead us around the spirits and get past them safely, but I'm also still getting familiar with our character abilities, and there was definitely something magical about that scene. I don't think it quite rose to the level of Mend the Forgotten, which I think is a bit more powerful. Now, I'm going to make an executive decision here and say that activated a different ability, Read the Weave, which says you can sense the threads of reality where others only see wild land. Burn a card to reduce the risk rating by 1d4 until the next rest. Now, we only have one card in our hand that we gained back in the very first roll, so let's double check to see if we're owed any more. The gaining cards section of the book says there are 4 ways players can gain cards from the top of the deck. When a player has a setback during checks, through certain abilities, adventures and events, exchanging 3 XP to gain 1 card. Finally, a player may be rewarded a card for role-playing their quirk or style exceptionally well. So, we only had that one setback, we don't have any abilities that grant cards, and we have 2 XP. It's going to be difficult to judge when to reward myself for exceptional role-playing, but I'm going to make an executive decision again. Our style is a shadow whisperer, and we've been trying to chat to hidden spirits quite a bit, and we've gotten a few silly rhymes in. So in the absence of any concrete process for rewarding ourselves, let's say we're owed a card. I'll draw and immediately burn it, and let's roll a d4. 2. So that gives us a risk rating of -1, which I think means we draw a card every check, and if it's red, then it reduces our difficulty level. Great. Now, let's roll a dexterity check for navigating this path around the spirits. And I'm going to reward myself again and step up the impact die for the scene with Drift. So that's a d10 and a d8. The difficulty is 9 of hearts, so 5, and risk rating 2 of spades, so no change. Alright, let's roll. 8 and a 5 is 13. So as well as our XP, that's actually 2 successes, because we more than doubled the difficulty level. But we only needed 1 success to get past the spirits. So I think I'll draw an advantage. 5 of spades. A shooting star is noticed falling nearby. I don't know how. Actually, I know exactly how, don't I? Titch carefully follows Drift's exact steps, ducking under the branch and past the long drop to the hole below. They give Drift a scratch behind the ear and turn to wave goodbye to the Teardrop Spirits. But as they do, they gasp in shock. From this new perspective, through a gap in the leaves above, near blinding light falls on Titch's button eyes, causing them to reflect a radiance like golden fire. After a moment, their eyes adjust, and Titch, squinting, can see the source of the light. A jagged, brilliant rock suspended impossibly near the domed ceiling, slowly spinning. And although it's difficult to judge the scale, it's clearly the largest fallen star Titch has ever seen.
How the...
Titch pauses, looking around.
How did that get here? Okay, focus.
Clambering across more branches, Titch and Drift soon arrive at the astronomy section, tucked into an alcove, and Titch scans the shelves. I think we need to ask the Oracle, don't we? Is the book here? Jack of Hearts is just a straightforward yes. Well, that's helpful. Let's draw a mentor prompt to go along with that and see if we're wrapping up this little adventure. Seven of Hearts is create a moral dilemma. Avoid framing dilemmas that lead to a single correct choice. Okay. It only takes a few minutes for Titch to find the right tome on the ancient shelves. On Shadows and Stars, its dark cover glittering with 1,000 little reflective motes. What are you doing here? A deep voice rings from behind Titch. They wheel around, squinting against the starlight, but don't see anyone. With a slight bow, Titch responds, holding On Shadows and Stars out in front of them.
Greetings. We're only here to check out this book. Look.
That volume is not available to be checked out.
Well, I really do need it, you see.
You need to leave.
Do you mind if I ask with whom I'm speaking? Only I can't see you.
Something shifts on a branch. My name is not important.
Do you have, authority here?
The building shakes again, far more violently this time. Drift leaps into an aggressive pose, growling.
I'll take that as an implied yes.
Titch looks around, trying to judge the quickest route out.
You're scaring my cat, and I wish you would stop that.
Oh, I kind of surprised myself with how bold that was. Titch is really coming to life in my head, I guess. So I think that needs a roll, doesn't it? Heart plus... You know what, I'm going to step up the impact die for this one. It's a bold move, and it rhymed. So, a D6 and a D8. Difficulty card, Jack of Clubs, that's a 10. And risk rating 3 of Hearts. That reduces it by 1, because of our connection through the weave. So, a difficulty rating of 9. And a 2 and a 2. I rolled a 4. That's a setback. That gives us another card in our hand, at least. It's fairly clear what happens, but I'm going to draw a complication for flavour. 6 of Hearts. Bad weather. Okay. Fine. The rumbling intensifies to a whole new level. Titch can barely keep their feet. The leaves of the great tree sway, and a howl of wind buffets the tattling in the nightcat. Titch throws up a protective arm across their face as dust and leaves pelt them. Books scatter, their pages open, and off to the side, Titch can see the Teardrop Spirits turn from blue to red. Relentless waves of wind and stinging leaves buffet the tattling. Tables and chairs clatter around them until Titch stumbles to a knee and takes shelter behind a toppled table. I'll take an endurance from Titch here, from the stinging leaves. Kneeling, panting, Titch places the book on the floor in front of the table, and gradually the rumbling subsides. The wind ebbs.
All right, you've made your point.
Titch sits cross-legged next to the book and puts a reassuring hand on Drift, feeling his raised hackles.
Drift, can you find me a pen and paper? I imagine there'll be some around here.
Drift slowly backs down and cautiously edges away. What are you doing? The deep voice asks.
Well, if I can't take it out, I'll have to sit here and copy it down, wouldn't I?
No, you should leave.
I don't think I need to leave. This is a public library, isn't it? Oh, we can ask someone.
Titch clicks the spoon from their jam jar and takes a mouthful of wicket reed jam.
Is there a library administrator we could speak to?
Once again, from behind the shelves, the owl-like creature with flowing tentacles appears. Immediately, the spirit gasps.
Books everywhere. I told you to put them back when you're done with them.
To Titch's surprise, the spirit turns towards the branches in the deep voice.
This is not part of our arrangement. I can help you put them back. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name before.
The spirit wheels around in the air.
Oh, it's you.
You may call me Head Librarian. You finally learned how libraries work, did you?
I think so.
Drift reappears at Titch's side, dropping an old and yellowed notebook onto the table, along with a dried-up ink pen.
Thank you, Drift.
Titch ruffles Drift's fur and then picks up a chair that was knocked over in the gale.
So, I'll help you pick them up, but I just need to copy this out first.
Copy it? Why on earth would you do that?
I need to take a copy out.
The head librarian scoffs.
You clearly haven't learned how this works. You take it to the desk and check it out.
The ground rumbles again. Titch says, sitting down and picking up the ancient pen.
Well, I was told not to.
By whom?
Titch nods towards the now strangely quiet voice.
I should have known. Come out here where we can see you.
A shape detaches itself from the branch, with a similar bark-like texture but rising up to a tall and spindly humanoid figure with yellow petals for hair. A woadling, twice as tall as Titch, standing silhouetted by the starlight. There is no need for concern, Head Librarian. This is my doing. I will set it right.
Good. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm rather busy.
The spirit fades from view again. Titch cocks their head towards the woadling. Why are you here? Did the witches send you? The woadling asks. Titch nods.
Madame Glass asked me to fetch a book. That's all.
Glass. Of course.
Why didn't you want me to take it? Is it special?
Titch picks up Shadows and Stars again, turning it over in their hands. There's a long pause. The witches cannot be trusted with it.
Well, if I don't take it, they'll come back, you know. This place, this tree, the star, is incredible.
Titch thinks for a moment before continuing. Glass had said the Coven had plans for the library, but witches are not in the habit of sharing plans.
When they hear about all this, I'm sure they'll want to speak to you. Learn what it is you do here, your arrangement.
That depends on what you tell them. Titch shifts uncomfortably at the implied threat.
Elm's Root, is that your name?
The woadling frowns and looks away, and in the weave, Titch feels a twang of a broken thread there, and without thinking, reaches for it.
They wanted me to look for you, if I could. They care at least that much. Or they wouldn't have told me. You know how they are with secrets. They could have just said nothing. And if I don't return, they'll want to know what happened to me, too.
Hello, it's me again, out of character as it were. Time to pause the fiction and remind myself this is a game where we might roll some dice occasionally. I got maybe a little carried away there, but that's okay. I'm beginning to think we should have invested more in heart, because I think we're about to do another heart roll. But first, this was our Mend the Forgotten ability that says once per session you can repair or restore a worn item, a faded memory, or a neglected bond, bringing it back just long enough to use, share, or understand. This could be a broken toy, a half-remembered lullaby, or a relationship left too long unattended. Without directly manipulating Elmsroot, I wanted to remind him of whatever connection he once had with the Coven. So let's pull a difficulty. 10 of spades and 8 of hearts. 14 in total. That is significantly difficult. Even with an impact die stepped up to a d8, I'll need to get maximum on both. So what I can do here is burn both the cards in our hand to add 2 additional impact dice. That gives us a better than 50-50 chance of success, but far from guaranteed. So here goes. That's terrible. 10 total. Well then, I'll draw a card for our hand and another complication card. 4 of spades. That's another moral dilemma. I don't know, I feel like we haven't really made progress on the last moral dilemma. It's still kind of revealing itself. I could draw another prompt, but maybe this is a reminder we need to face a tough decision. I also think that section deserves a card for speaking softly to unseen creatures, maybe? Well, no one's here to stop me, so I'm going to give myself a card. The Woadling's gaze hardens on Titch. Lies and half-truths, just like the rest. Titch feels a thread snap. In the silence that follows, Titch looks over the book again. Well, I'm afraid we have to be going. I'm sorry we didn't meet on better terms. Drift? Titch stands and opens the satchel, ready to slide the book in and run. Follow, Elmsroot says. What? Follow, please, the Woadling says, and takes a step up the branch towards the trunk of the tree. Titch glances at the way out. This would be the perfect time to just run. But Elmsroot's leading them deeper into this incredible place, towards the tree, towards the star. And so, clutching the book, Titch beckons to Drift and follows. Thank you ever so much for joining me on this adventure. I'm still getting to grips with the rules, but I'll get the hang of it. And it definitely felt like I was learning about Titch and Drift just as much as I was learning about the game, which is cool. Of course, a big thanks to all the folks who worked on Midnight Muscadines. Please do go and follow them. And a huge, huge thanks, as always, to this month's Ko-fi supporters. If you'd like to support everything I do here, and feel able to, please do head over to ko-fi.com/cozyrpgreviews. I'm really, really looking forward to the rest of the adventure. This is me editing, so I already know what happens in the next episode, and it honestly had my heart racing while I was playing. Next week is a review week though, so please do subscribe and do that bell thing to find out what's in the tree in a couple of weeks. Until then, happy adventures!